Okay, well, I guess we're after 4 o'clock here, so I'll call the Housing Commission meeting for Monday on December 19th. We'll do roll call. Joyce. Here. And Gary.
Here.
And Yolanda.
Present.
And I'm here, Matt, so we have a quorum. First thing, we'll go over the minutes from the November meeting. And just ask if anybody has any corrections or questions. It was pretty short, as I remember. 16 minutes.
I make a motion to approve the October minutes.
Second.
Great. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the November 1, 2022. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none. Those are approved. So we'll go on to our financial report. And I read that Joyce had a question, but it looked like it got answered.
I sent David through my computer on today.
Oh, okay. Well, if you want to repeat your question, because I don't know if it went out to everybody or not, but okay.
No, I'd asked about the, for section 8 in October, it said the project expense poured out administration fees. Well, October it was $163.68, and in November's report it shows it was $1,562.43. I'm just kind of wondering, what is project expense, and we have any idea why it's so much higher?
So project expense is administrative fees that we pay to other public housing agencies to administer our house contracts. So when a tenant chooses to port out, we have to pay an administrative fees that PHA to oversee that voucher. And so I believe Commissioner Miller brought up a really good question. I did a little bit of research, didn't have much time today, but went back to see in August meeting, we reported 906.11, September 1873, October 163.68, and then November 162.43. So it was very atypical for us to have that little bit of administrative fee. It can vary month to month, depending on how many kids we're reporting out or doing a program, but I would have to double check with finance. My guess is that they just did not move the funds and stated that they didn't move the funds until the month of November. If I had to assumption, but I will double check on that and follow up and answer as soon as possible.
Yeah, I remember learning that a couple years ago, that bureaucratic shuffle of, I didn't know, I mean, I knew about porting, but I didn't know that the fees went with it. So, well, Yolanda probably remembers when we learned about it, which I thought was kind of interesting, but.
With the fees, we pay the lower of the two housing authorities, so our court fee is 54.5. Some housing authorities are $38, so we would pay them 38. So we wouldn't go above what our administrative fee is. But I will look into that and follow up.
Is that true with those that port in also? Like if they came from, say, Chicago?
So right now we are absorbing because so anyone porting into our PHA, we are absorbing them. They become a voucher here. So we
Correct.
would not bill. We would only bill if we max out our utilization and we need to start billing them to the other PHAs. And then we would bill out at our administrative fee rate. So right now we're absorbing. Sometime in the future we may see that. As you know, we opened up our wait list.
Mhm.
We're now in January we pulled 50 from that wait list. So we're at some point
We have 24 minutes to go, so you can.
That's why. Okay, great.
Sorry about that.
You're fine, I just want to make sure it's up next.
Okay. Anybody need me to repeat that all over again?
We
All
could-
right, thanks, Terry.
We can
Okay.
hear you in here.
I make a motion to approve financial report for the month of November.
Second.
Great, it's been moved and seconded to approve the financial reports for November. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now we'll go on to occupancy.
So the, units vacant at 745 West 61st Street, are they still doing upgrades and all that to, I don't know if it's really upgrades, but are they still making repairs, or what are they doing with those units?
We actually sold those units, on
Excuse me.
November 30th. So what we did is we did not actually rehab any of the remaining units. We took our facilities maintenance or plan with the housing coordinators to go in and assess. There were some things that needed to be updated to meet HQS standards, like, there needed to be a vanity input, there needed to be a couple of doors replaced, and smoke detectors, so we did the units rehab.
Okay. Okay.
So what about the other 4 addresses too? Were they also sold?
Those, I'm sorry. Nice.
Feedback.
Those were sold to Habitat for Humanity as is, because they were going to
Okay.
completely rehab those units, so they didn't require any work.
They were, I'm sorry, you said they were sold to Habitat?
Yes, the 4 units, 6605 Vine, 1838 West 58th, the single-family dwellings, 810 Franklin, and 625 East 7th. Vera French purchased the row homes, the 745 and 747 West units, West 61st Street units.
Okay.
I heard that.
I make a motion to approve the occupancy reports for November, if nobody else has any questions.
Second.
Great, been moved and seconded to approve the occupancy. I used to tease our former chairperson about that word, but when you don't use it too often. Anyway, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, so. Do we have any other consideration items or a meeting date and
I think Malia said she had
Or-
some stuff she wanted to discuss.
okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, thank
Was
you,
your little-
Commissioner Roberts. Yes, I actually was going to touch on that. So if you're looking forward to the January meeting, we meet on the third Monday, that is actually Martin Luther King Day.
That's happened, seems like
Yeah.
Yeah,
that happens every year.
it is a holiday for us, and didn't know what your thoughts were.
We can do the 23rd. If it's all right with everybody else.
No problem.
I know the last couple of years, it's given staff a little longer to get things together, but
Yeah.
Okay. The room is available. We've looked ahead.
Oh,
Yes.
you did check that,
So the same commission that is going to meet after us is going to have, they're going to have their meeting as well after our meeting on the 23rd. And there are just a couple of things. I wanted to talk about that next meeting once you make the decision whether or not to approve. Are we, with the 23rd? So we're confirming the 23rd?
Yep.
Okay. There will be 2 resolutions that we'll be bringing forth. The first resolution would be we submitted a request for to HUD to increase the payment standard from 110% to 120%. It was approved to December 23rd, 2023. So we would like to put forth a pending resolution to allow this to go for your approval, which will temporarily allow the payment standard increase to 120% through December 31st, 2023. This allows us to get more tenants into above-market housing, and this market as fluctuates, as we very well know. So HUD provided us the extension on this waiver to assist new admissions and those that are experiencing rent burden to have the ability to provide more subsidy for their units. The other resolution will be for the SF 424, which is a document that requires our approval as part of the sale of public housing. It's part of our closeout. It's a standard form used by federal agencies to submit a budget request for additional funds. We've communicated with our HUD rep with our purpose of, we sold public housing, but they told us that we're required to submit the form irregardless. So at the next meeting, there will be a resolution to close out the public housing units, and I can provide you with a copy of that document at that time. That's it.
I'll bring a pen. Okay, if there's no other discussion, I'll ask for a motion to.
So I do have a
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
that's
didn't
okay.
mean to cut you off.
So the 120 pay increase, that takes effect, I'm sorry, when did you say?
That will take effect once it's approved by the board,
And
the commission.
it will expire,
December 31st, 2023. So it's really to help get people into housing and pay quite a few more months, and then help those that are rent burdened, that are paying over 40% of their income towards rent.
that's it.
On another note, I'd also just like to make you aware that we will be hosting briefings once a month for people that are selected from the wait list to come into the program. This briefing will be held here in the council chambers. Our first briefing will be the 24th of January, and the second briefing will be the 25th. This allows us to, doing the briefings in this way allows us to, it's more efficient because we can provide more vouchers. So we'll have 25 participants on the 24th and 25 participants on the 25th that will be here to receive a briefing to get their voucher for Section 8.
To actually get it, because they're already signed up.
So, right, so we're on the second phase of this process, and screening during the background checks and the preference checks. We recently refreshed the list when we updated the wait list with 1,166 applicants. Since then, we've submitted a letter out to these applicants, the first 50 on the wait list, to gather more information. When they come in for a briefing, they'll submit the information, social security cards, birth certificates, ID. The preliminary work now is to do the background screenings and to verify preferences before they come. So if they're ineligible, that they don't show up to the day of the briefing expecting to get their voucher. On the day of the briefing, staff will cover the voucher issuance, talk about the guidelines of the programs, what you can and cannot do, rent subsidy payments, and how those types of things work. And then, once that's completed, they will receive their voucher. Oh, absolutely. Yes, and I will share information with you. I'll send that information out by email if you would be interested in participating in that.
What, you took my question.
Not off the top of my head.
Just when you send us that information, you can just include the time.
Yes, I will include all that information for you. Yep, absolutely.
That reminds me of a question that, for Section 8, do they have to actually be U.S. citizens? When you said Social Security
That is a good
or
question.
IDs, because there is a group of people, I go to church with many, who are pushing for what's called a community ID. And I should know more about how that process works. I mean, as far as Section 8. I'm not trying to exclude anybody that's been waiting in line,
Yeah.
but I just wondered about other people that they're working, they're paying taxes, but
Correct.
they're not getting benefits of paying those taxes.
So I believe if they have a tax ID number where we can do a background check, because we do check in the HUD system to see if they've been receiving housing subsidies from any other PHAs and they potentially owe them money.
I think that's
So
fine.
I believe, and I could double check on that as well with our housing coordinators, I believe if they have a tax ID number, that they can be eligible. And I think this is great because now the list has been closed for so long and people had been anticipating when are we going to be pulling names from the list? And we've been updating and sending information out and now we have a fresh list, right? So we have people who have most recently signed up who are now getting pulled from the list.
Instead of waiting years and years.
Correct.
Yeah, good.
So these participants, if they do not attend these sessions, are they dropped?
So what we did is we sent out letters a couple weeks ago. We wanted them to respond to see if they were still interested in participating in the program. If the letter came back to us, we made an attempt to contact them by email, okay? If we can't reach them by email and the mails return back to us, we have no other option but to remove them. Let's say if someone contacted us on the day of the event and they said, hey, I was unable to turn in this information and for whatever reason, we then allow them to come to the next briefing in February. If they don't show up or don't respond, then we remove them from the list.
But if they did respond,
Yes.
but just don't show, is it a requirement that they have to go through these briefings to get their certificate, even though they've turned in everything?
Right, so they've turned in some information now. So when they get the letter that they got a week ago, they would turn in information just to do the background check and check the preferences. On the day of the briefing, they would have to provide social security cards, ID, birth certificates, all that stuff. If they don't provide that information, then they're not issued a voucher at that time. And there's a reminder letter being sent out because we know it can be difficult because of the time lapse in between now and January 24th.
Well,
Exactly.
that was the other, when were those sent? Every once in a while, just in passing, I chat with somebody who was born other places. You know, I was born in Davenport, Iowa, so even though I didn't have, anyway, it's a lot harder for people who were born other places to get birth certificates. And Social Security office is tough too, especially during COVID, because they didn't take appointments. And I would guess, and I don't know this for sure, but a lot of people who might be hoping to get Section 8 may not even have internet access, or they're working jobs that they don't get time off to go to a library and use their internet access. I don't know, I just think about some of those things sometime that I hope we don't make too many hurdles for people who are trying their best to get some decent housing, which I think is a human right.
Great.
Quite so.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely agree, Commissioner Wising. And this is why we're flexible. This is why we've reached out so far in advance to be able to, and made a couple of attempts. So if we send a letter, we don't hear another letter goes out to follow up to remind them. If the second letter comes back, then we try to contact them by email or phone just to let them know. And then we wait another 30 days. So at least that's 2 attempts and another 30 days before they are removed from the list, just so that it doesn't keep a spot open for someone else who would be able to be pulled from that list.
And I'm sure, I don't know, I could be making assumptions, but I'm sure if you see people are trying to get the birth certificate or whatever, something that they need, I'm sure you guys may assist in a certain aspect of that, maybe, I'm not sure.
So, and there are times we work with other agencies that may have that information. Like they're signing release of information, and maybe they've turn it into DHS or some other program, and they're willing to release that information. And this is why we're giving them advance notice, so that
That's good.
they'll be able to have that information with them by the time the 24th goes. Again, they'll get that second reminder at the beginning of January because there's such a big time between when we sent the letter at the beginning of December and when the briefings actually occur.
Well, I don't have any other items to. comment
Anybody
on.
else? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a good holiday, whatever you celebrate, people.